Everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today in a different day is Charlie Cook of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Either that or Amanda Suffolk, who grew a really quick beard. One of the two.
She's a handsome man. She's a handsome devil, right?
Yeah,
she looked like me on Wednesday, and I look like her. No, she looked like me on Monday. I look like, yeah.
You stop digging, you're deep enough.
I don't know what day it is. Let's go with that.
All right. I am still working to get the social media connected here. There we go. We should be connected. And we got a lot of stories to talk about today, Charlie. I want to kick off with one out of Alabama. Alabama, just a few weeks ago, joined the list of states that, as soon as the law takes effect, will be constitutional carry states this year.
We've had, 3 states this year? 3 states and literally 3 states in 2 weeks.
Yeah, with more, it still looks like more are to come.
Excellent.
Georgia is still in the mix. Nebraska is still in the mix. And according to some, Maryland is still in the mix, but honestly, I said this yesterday.
Maryland?
I would bet my entire next month's pay that Maryland will not get constitutional carry this year. Theoretically, it's possible. There's a bill in the House. It's stalled in committee, and they had. Let me go over here because I've got the information right over here. Maryland has to be. Their legislature is done April 11th. They have to have everything out of the legislature by April 11th, and it's still stalled in committee in the House and has not been heard in the Senate yet. So,
Didn't they just have a magazine ban, like a Massachusetts magazine ban, like 2 months ago?
Yeah, it's.
So, are you doubling your money?
Yeah, there's. I do a search every day on constitutional carry and where things are, and anyway, Maryland theoretically is still in it, but let's be honest, they're not in it.
Right.
So
it looks good on paper.
Yes, it is. There's a legislator in Maryland. Bless their heart, they're trying, but it's a really uphill battle for that legislator.
Bless their heart. I used to live in Tennessee for a little bit. I know what bless your heart means. Hey, completely off topic. You say all the time that constitutional carry isn't true constitutional carry. It's permitless carry. And this is something every time I talk about constitutional carry, I say we call it constitutional carry, but it's really permitless carry is kind of how I start off sentences when I say constitutional carry. And I think about it every single time. I'm like, constitutional carry, does this mean we don't have gun-free zones, or we do have gun-free zones? Or can we carry in the gun-free zones, or can we not? And that's where I've started to lean towards permitless carry.
Yes, yes.
And
thank you for bringing that up.
I always say that they're used synonymously, like, modern
Clips.
Sporting rifle and assault rifle, clips and magazines, ghost guns and homemade firearms. So anyway, I just want to I acknowledge to you that I think of you every time I say constitutional carry, permitless carry. Which one is it? What would Paul say?
Yeah, permitless carry is yes, but however, I hear it so much and everybody refers to it so often as constitutional carry that it gets into my vernacular more and more. But
absolutely,
Alabama passed permitless carry, and it's going to be the law of the land. And then this week, they get HB 462 going through the House. I put this in the show notes as a big steaming pile of crap. And I believe that's what it is. What it would do is it would set up a voluntary do not sell database in the state. You could easily sign up for this thing, and you would go on the federal. You would go on the state database and the federal NICS check database, as you cannot sell guns to this person. Now, getting on it is super easy. in order to get off it, not so much. Not only can you not, you cannot be a prohibited person, you also must go in front of a judge and prove you are not a threat to anybody.
There's already a way to be on a don't sell guns to me list. And you're ready? This is shocking. Don't buy a gun. That's the easiest way to do it, right?
Yeah.
I guarantee the one way that you do not get pregnant is abstinence. Absolutely. Every single time it's proven to work.
Yep, absolutely. And what's really worrying me about this is, especially if somebody can be signed up online, because there is where fraud comes in. If somebody, have you ever been? Is anybody who's ever been through a bad, ugly divorce? Guess what? Your ex-wife would sign you up for this list that fast, or soon to be ex-wife.
Right. I had an identity theft case against me one time. I had somebody in Houston had a furniture store, and they bought people's identities and bought their information, and they racked up like $50,000 in credit card debt, and they were laundering money that way. And I had to go down to Houston to testify against this. And I will say this is a pretty funny story, and it's completely off track. They asked me about what I did, and this was the late 2000s, so I was still just a gun instructor. I wasn't Charlie from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. The guy, I told the guy I was a band teacher and a gun instructor, and I was from Massachusetts, and he said, what do you think of the gun laws we have here in Texas? And I told him, quote, I could smell the freedom when I stepped off the airplane. And this is completely true. I didn't know these were the questions they were going to ask me in court. So I'm in court. What's your name? Where do you live? What do you do? What else do you do? Oh, what do you think of the gun laws we have here? I'm on court in Texas. What do you think of the laws we have here in Texas, Mr. Cook? I smelled the freedom when I got off the airplane. The judge laughed, the jury laughed, and the guy they were prosecuting laughed as well.
Nice.
It was great. But anyway, if you can add someone electronically and just enter their name, I mean, I hate saying that you can get Social Security numbers pretty easily, but if people can steal your identity, they can put this on here and make you put you on the do not sell list, and you don't know it until you go to buy a gun.
Absolutely. And the thing is not easy to get off of. It's not just, no, I'm a good person and I want to be off this list. No, it's a lot more than that.
Yeah, it's probably easier to get rid of a tattoo.
Or a soon-to-be ex-wife. And maybe even cheaper. Let's and now they are really coming up on a deadline with that one too. Alabama's legislature, they're limited to 105 calendar days. They have to adjourn by April 7th, unless there's a special session called by the governor. So they don't have a lot of time. I would still encourage you, if you're in Alabama, get a hold of your legislator and tell them HB 462 is a bad idea. Because quite simply, if you don't want a gun, don't go shopping for one.
Yeah, it's not that hard. You don't have to tell everyone that you don't drink because you don't go to a bar and you don't drink. Like, you don't have to force that on one. You don't have to force that on everyone, and don't do it by don't doing it.
There you go. Next story, and this is good news. Georgia, and this is where I think Georgia really is going to get it this year. They have to hurry, though. They're done. Georgia's legislature's done by April 4th. They've got less time than Alabama, but the Senate committee is hearing the House's version of constitutional carry this week. It's got to go through committee and then bang out to the main Senate, and then as soon as the Senate votes it through, the governor gets it. But we're looking at, it's the 23rd of March today. They bring up a calendar, and they've got to be done. They've got less than 2 weeks. So they need to get a move on. But yeah, Georgia, if I had to get my crystal ball out and get it polished up, I would say Georgia's probably going to be number 25. And our good friend who's on the Polite Society podcast with us, John Richardson, he told us the other day that there are just as many population wise in permitless carry states as there are now in may issue states. I think that is super cool.
That's awesome. Geographically, it's certainly more than half the country, but now that there's more people that can carry without a permit, rock on, man. More places are becoming free America, and the anti-gun states are becoming more anti-gun. Like the opposites are getting further apart.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Next story. This is another not so good one, and this one is the first one I put on the show notes this morning. This one kind of burns me. We're going back down to San Jose, California, and San Jose is that same city really that put forward you must now pay a tax if you own a firearm and you live in San Jose. You've got to have insurance. And this and that and the other thing. Well, now they put forward a new city ordinance where you cannot spend money on elections unless you sign a statement saying you're not being influenced by a foreign government. And that's strictly against the First Amendment. You ought to be able to say whatever the heck you want, spend your money politically however the heck you want. My thought is, what's next? Are they going to say you can't spend money politically in San Jose unless you're going to put it for the re-election of Lori Smith, who's the sheriff there? And by the way, the same Lori Smith, the sheriff there, that's up against corruption charges.
Yeah, I was going to say we talked about her recently,
Mm-hmm.
like a couple weeks ago. She was in a story. Obviously, big anti-freedom stuff here in California. The sentence that I thought was kind of interesting here is let me see if I can find it. There are also some glaring hypocrisy on display on the part that the San Jose City Council, Dev Davis, who was the only council member to vote against the proposal, pointed out to her colleagues that while they're supposedly trying to crack down on foreign influence in local elections, they're also floating a plan to let non-citizens, including those in the country illegally, to actually cast a vote in the very same elections. Right. We don't want foreign influence, but we're going to let foreign people come here illegally, and then we're going to take their votes. I went to school to be a musician. That seems like it could easily be foreign influence on an election. Yeah.
That's like trying to play a modern rock song in 7/3 time. It just doesn't work.
That's true. 7/3 time isn't a real time, but that's okay. 7/8, I'll take it. Oh man.
You can tell my musical ability right there.
That's all right. What do you play? I like to play music.
What do I play? I play a Glock Model 17 is what I play. By the way,
the radio.
Going back to your other than riding shotgun with Charlie, you've also got the other.
I got the Gungram videos.
Yeah, the Gungrams. Yeah. I've asked you this before, but I don't think I ever put it onto a podcast. How the heck do you get an AR tuned in B flat?
It's magic. Oh. It's the see. I have to talk to Rob Campbell to get the rifling just right. That's what.
Okay.
It's not the 7-in-1 twist or the 9-in-1 twist. It's the 7 5/8. That's the one.
That's it. Okay. All right. There we go. I haven't even looked. I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's more. I mean, obviously, we know it's more nonsense from California, and it's all. They want to let illegals vote, but they don't want to have foreign influence, and it's really ridiculous.
It is. George says, I made it in time to catch the bullet instead of the ricochet. Well, at least you're catching the ricochet. Love that.
We were bantering about this last night. We need to come up with something, right?
Yeah.
If you don't catch the bullet, catch the ricochet. I love it.
George also says, if you do know the way to San Jose, don't bother going.
There
Amen.
we go. Another great musical reference there.
By the way, George is probably infinitely better at music than I am. Wyoming, our next story. Wyoming did pass the Second Amendment Preservation Act, but it's really a watered-down version. The original one they had that they scrapped, any law enforcement officer that was assisting the federal government in a confiscation, an illegal confiscation, could have been brought up on charges. They removed that. They even removed the let me see if I can pull this story up, but basically what it says is that state funds cannot be used. It doesn't say that state personnel can't be used. It doesn't say state personnel can't be paid. It just says state funds can't be used. So nice try, but try again.
Yeah. Yeah, it says that an individual knowing who violates this will be guilty of a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 1 year or a fine up to $2,000 for breaking this.
And show me a prosecutor that's going to prosecute a policeman in Wyoming
for helping a federal agent. Really. It like saying that illegals shouldn't vote. They shouldn't have to say that. Hey, listen, you know what? We're not going to help the federal agents do their job if we're there and they need our help.
We got two stories left. One I put just to brag. It finally hit the NRA's website. Finally, I've mentioned it numerous times here on the Bullet. The NRA finally got around to putting it on their website. 3 pro-gun bills got signed this week by Governor Kristi Noem. And in South Dakota, starting July 1st, all fees for permits go to zero. It's not going to cost you a penny to exercise your freedoms in South Dakota starting July 1st.
Such bragging rights for you to me.
How much does it cost for your permit, Charlie?
Oh my God! Well, so here we go. I've tallied it up before. It's $100 for the class, maybe $125. You're going to pay $100 for the license. After you do that, you're going to have to buy a gun and then buy all of the stuff that goes with it: eye protection, ear protection, some sort of a securing device. You're obviously going to have to buy ammunition. You also have to join a shooting club, and sometimes the dues for those are a little ridiculous. Sometimes they can be a little excessive. So I figured it out. It's somewhere between $800 to $1,000 that somebody in Massachusetts would have to go to when they say, "Hey, I'd like to buy a gun." Until shooting their own gun on their own range with their own, having to get their permit. We can't have anything without a permit here. So they've got to take a class, get the permit, buy a gun, buy ammo, buy safety gear, join a shooting range. It's somewhere easy, $800 to $1,000.
In South Dakota, if you want the basic permit, it's $5. If you want the enhanced permit that has reciprocity with 38 other states, it is, well, now nothing. You go take the course. Now the trainer will charge you for the course. Usually it's about $100, and that's it. The fingerprinting fees and the permit itself is nothing.
This is great news. It really, when you start to think about this, in states like South Dakota where they're dropping the fees, and I think Indiana actually talked about dropping the fees, but now I know they don't have to worry about it, and they were going to do an enhanced for life permit.
Mm-hmm. They already had that.
Okay, so when you hear that it's going to cost $100 in Massachusetts, or in Illinois, I think it's $250. just for the permit, and on top of 16 hours of class time, including like 4 hours of live fire. Like when you start to add all this stuff up and you start to think about it, it now gets really expensive for someone to exercise their constitutional right. And when it gets really expensive, the people that might want to protect themselves that live in crappy neighborhoods might not be able to afford it. And they're going to have to say, hey, listen, the price of gas is going up, but my pay is not. The price of food is going up, but my pay is not. And I'd still like to be able to protect my family because we're living in this dangerous time where they want to defund the police and bad things are happening and crazy things are happening. And oh my gosh, it's going to cost me a week's pay in order for me to be able to get a gun license, to take a class, and to buy everything. Oof. I tell everyone I started teaching gun classes to support my shooting habit.
Yeah.
Like I did the whole break even. How much is it going to cost me to become an instructor, and how much money could I start to make, from a side gig teaching gun classes?
Absolutely. Well, probably in Massachusetts better than dancing at polls, but it is what it is.
Well, the hours aren't the same.
Well, there is that too. Michael says confusing a constitutional carry state doesn't need a permit, but if he travels outside his state, he doesn't have reciprocity unless he has his state license. How will they correct this? I don't know that they're gonna correct it, Michael. And really the only way to correct it is through the Supreme Court deciding shall not be infringed. Really does mean shall not be infringed. And that's not going to happen this year or next year or the year after that. It's going to take a while to get there.
Yeah, it's going to take a long time. As we all know, Vermont is the only state that doesn't make permits, and when all the states go to, when these states have gone to permitless carry or constitutional carry, if you want to have reciprocity, you've got to buck up and take the class.
Well, you get an out-of-state permit before a lot of states went permitless, the big states to get out-of-state non-resident permits were Florida and Arizona because they had reciprocity with a lot of states, and the permits were fairly easy to get. And I believe if you got both of those together, at least when I was looking into it, you got coverage for 40 states if you had those two non-resident permits. So.
Right. I teach the Utah class, and I actually have a couple of Utah classes coming up this weekend. I know the class that I'm teaching Sunday is full, and I think the one on Saturday is in pretty good shape as well. And I'm teaching one the following weekend, and I think that class is pretty booked up as well. It's great. I mean, I don't. My biggest concern about national reciprocity is when you people from free America come to occupied territory with your standard capacity magazines, and you don't know that they're illegal, and you get pulled over for speeding, and you tell the police that you have a gun on you, and they find that you got a high cap magazine, you're going to be screwed.
Yeah,
we're absolutely going to be screwed. So that's my biggest concern about national reciprocity, is that people aren't going to do their homework. You and I are going to do our homework. The people that watch this are doing their homework right now, and they're going to do their homework when they travel, whether they use the USCCA app, whether they use handgunlaw.us, whether they use the US Law Shield information, whether they go to USA Carry, whatever it is that they go to, they're going to do the homework because our people are educated and knowledgeable, and we want to certainly stay within the law. But a lot of people don't know that, and people are completely bowled over when you say, yeah, you can't use your Mass license in Connecticut, and you can't take, you have a Massachusetts license, you can't carry in New York. They're like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah. George was answering. Michael says, maybe you can get a Florida license. My cousin who lives in California did it a while back. And then like I said, we were just talking about Utah. Arizona's another one that, and interestingly, when Arizona went permitless carry, their permit filings went up. And I have a feeling in South Dakota, the enhanced permit requests are going to go through the stinking roof, simply because there's going to be no cost for it. It was, when they first came out, it was over $100 for the enhanced permit, just the state. Now, not so much, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. I think that if you are in a disadvantaged neighborhood, it shouldn't have to cost you anything to exercise your freedoms.
You know, my Bizarro Charlie, Tom Knighton, who's on the Mondays that I'm not on, he I'm not sure what the right word is. I don't want to say he opened my eyes, but he made me see the training requirement as kind of interesting, and we've talked about this before too, is when you have to do a 4-hour class or a 6-hour class or an 8-hour class, people will take that and then think that's all that they have to do and think they're good to go. Mm-hmm. But when states loosen their training requirements, people will take more classes. You know, I see so many people that are they take the class to get their license, and then they think they're good to go. And there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more to it when you start to learn about stuff.
Well, and
because you'll see. Yeah, you'll talk to people. I talk to my non-gun friends, and they're like, "So, what do you carry a gun for? Do you carry it loaded?" Yeah, I carry it loaded because, well, you're not supposed to load it till you're ready to use it. When I put it on, it's the pogo, pants on, gun on. I'm ready to use it when I put it on, and I need to know that it's going to go bang when I need to use it because I'm not going to have time to fool around with stuff. Which leads right into the smart gun technology, which we're going to talk about next.
Yes,
but
and fair warning, we're going to go late because this is more than a 4-minute conversation we're going to have.
I know, and you thought we were going to be done early and didn't have any stories.
It's a very slow news day. It absolutely is. But yeah, NSSF came out with an article. The title to the article is "Don't Believe the Hype, Smart Gun Tech Still Not Ready for Prime Time." It is a very interesting article. I would encourage everybody to go over to NSSF, read the article. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to shock some people. I'm ready to flip the switch. I'm ready to go ahead and go over to smart gun technology. I'll do it 4 years after the Secret Service totally switches over and protects the president with smart guns.
I'm with you. I just before SHOT Show, I got an iPhone 13, and it has the face reading thing. It reads my face with my sunglasses on. Somebody was just telling me that it reads her. She has one as well. It reads her face with her mask on. The scary thing is this: even when it reads the face, it takes a second before it works. If it doesn't kick on, if the face reading technology doesn't work, it's about 2 seconds, and then you have to enter your passcode, and then it takes another second or so after that. So. The fastest I can pick up my phone and get on my phone is 2 seconds. The slowest is I mean the slowest fastest time is 4 seconds. So somebody's breaking in your house, somebody's knocking down the door, somebody's charging towards you. You've got to pull out your smart gun. You've got to enter in your code. Oh my gosh, it didn't work. It doesn't read. It's got to read your fingerprint. Your fingerprint's all sweaty because someone's coming in your house. Yep, it's too late. Yeah. Too late. The bad guys already got you.
I'm going to say that, and I just looked over at comments. We're going to go really late today because we got to go back to some of these comments, but I want to finish this out first. The smart gun technology, if it goes off the fingerprint, when was the last time you were in a really high-stress environment that your hands didn't just get soaking wet with sweat almost instantly? That's going to foul a fingerprint reader. And the trigger on any decent trigger is curved. And I don't know about you guys, but if I'm holding my finger up here, I don't have a whole lot of fingerprint right there, and that's where my finger rests on the trigger. I don't rest my finger right there like a lot of people do. Mine rests right here. I've heard a lot of people tell me, well, you're going to get your shots off that way. You're not doing it perfectly. I'll go shooting with you. We'll see. I do pretty good. Charlie was shooting with me. I do all right.
Yes, there was not a lot of difference between my score not having had a stroke and your score having had a stroke.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's absolutely. You're still quite proficient with a firearm, Paul.
But at any rate, I'm just saying fingerprint readers are it cannot be reliable. Today's technology, and even given, I don't know where technology is going in 10 years. I don't see it getting that good in 10 years. I've got an Android phone that's got fingerprint. I'm going to do this on camera right now. Try and get it. Okay, it's right there in front of and I'm going to try to open my phone here with my fingerprint. And, okay, now my index finger did open it. I'm going to shut the phone down now. We're going to try it again, but I've got all 10 fingers registered here. I'm going to go over with my left hand, and guess what? Nope. What if I needed to use my left hand to draw or to fire my gun? What if my right hand was injured? Maybe I couldn't move it so well. Maybe I was in a physical fight with this guy before it turned, and I had to draw my gun and use my left hand. And it was like my Android phone, and one of the 10 fingerprints I had registered in there all of a sudden just stopped working. I said, Secret Service needs to adopt this smart gun technology on all people, protecting the president, and keep it for 4 years. Then I'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I got a notification from the Facebook this week that something I posted was less than true or misleading, and it was the whole the government wants us to get electric cars, and then they start to tell people in California not to use electricity. Hello, you got to plug your gun in every night to charge it? Yeah. Oops, there's a power outage. You didn't know there was a power outage, and guess what happens in a power outage? People come over and say, hey, people's electric systems are down. We can break into houses. The ring's not going to work. The security is not going to work. And then your gun might not work as well.
Well, let's go a little bit more connected, because one of the it's a ha-ha on Facebook, but you get an electric car, all of a sudden you posted something on Facebook and your car won't work for 48 hours, right?
Right, you get a 48-hour ban.
Okay, you get a 48-hour ban on your gun too. Or how connected are we going to let these things get? Can they shut your gun off?
The more that I think about this, the more I think of Rob Campbell, and I think of getting a muzzleloader. I really do.
Let's get some of these.
Let's get some comments. We've had almost no comments the whole time.
Smart guns will be hacked, and what happens if they hit us with an EMP? Well, then you've got a paperweight.
Boom. You've got a bludgeoning tool.
Fingerprint reader, lotion, sanitizer, blood will all hinder the smart gun. Yep.
I've tried sending text messages from the shower, and I have to dry my hand off before you use the thumbprint reader. So it doesn't work. Not a good call.
Michael says they will Bluetooth you with a chip to your gun. Yeah.
Yeah. So Bluetooth. I bucked up. I bought some of the Walmart AirPods. Walmart's brand of AirPods, the wireless things, and they worked okay. When I got this new phone, they haven't worked since. Every time I'm listening to a podcast and I use the earbuds when I walk into the store, it will keep restarting the show that I'm listening to. And I'm like, all right, this is a crock of cheese, and I'm going to take them out, and I'm like mad that I'm walking through the store and I can't listen to something.
A crock of cheese. Did Amanda just show up again?
It is Wednesday.
Get this one up here. Speaking of EMPs, the only thing we'll be running are Magneto Harleys until they run out of gas. I got news for you, man. Of all the vehicles we have, I have a 1982 Honda Goldwing. That thing will run, even if we get blasted by nukes or whatever. It will still fire off. So, yeah, I've got...
Nice.
I don't know how much off-roading it'll do, but it'll still fire up. So anyway, I want to go back to a couple... Let me go back to a couple comments back to permitless carry and all that.
Yeah.
Charlie Shaver says, concealed carry class is a basic minimum. It's not training. You know, I want to use that to... I know this isn't where Charlie was going, but I want to use this to dovetail. I am totally against a training requirement as part of a permit to carry or as part of any requirement. I am totally for training. If you own a firearm, I am begging you to go get training. Number one, it's fun. You will learn a ton, and it is fun. Number two is that you don't know what you don't know. And I've been through, I'm not exaggerating in the least, hundreds of hours of firearms training, both free-stroke, and now I've been through a bunch, not a bunch, I've been through a Mag 40 after my stroke. And every time I go back to class, doesn't matter if it's a entry-level class or an advanced class, every time I go, I learn something. So please, if you haven't been through training, go. And if you've been through training, you don't need me to encourage you. Keep going.
I did some handgun classes at the SIG Academy up in New Hampshire, and I hate to admit this, I didn't quite get what trigger reset was until I did the Handgun 102 class up at the SIG Academy. And I will tell you, every time I let go of the trigger on my Glock, I hear the clicking noise every single time. I hear the trigger reset every single time I fire the gun. Well, it wasn't something I ever noticed before, but now I notice it every single time I let the trigger go.
Yeah, I have hearing loss, and that's why a lot of people you see on these shows, they have these little bitty buds, and you know they can hear with just little buds in their ears. I can't. That's why I have the big old fashioned radio headsets, because I can make these things really loud. At any rate, I don't necessarily hear even the loud reset that I'm told the Glock has. I don't necessarily hear that. I feel it, but I don't hear it. So,
no, I mean, the point was, even though we have training, there's more things we can learn. You know?
Oh, yeah.
And I knew nothing. Like, after I'm like, oh, so this is what trigger reset is. Now I get it. And after having been an instructor for years, now I get what trigger reset is.
Yeah, exactly. Michael says, if I get it back up there, don't be Alec. Oh, yeah, please don't be an Alec.
Yes, don't be a Baldwin.
Charlie says, INTOT. I never thought of that. Training with experts is essential. Alrighty, man. Well, we're just about 10 minutes over time, and so I think this is a good place to go ahead and start shutting this down.
This was a magnum bullet for sure.
Absolutely. You got the standard capacity magazine load today. So
I love it.
All right. Folks, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Tomorrow is our normal 5 p.m. Central Time, the only time zone that matters. Our standard 5 p.m. Central Time show, as well as Friday. This weekend, I want to encourage you, if I can get my calendar to come up, I do want to encourage you to tune in this Saturday, because we have Beth Alcazar coming back on. Dan Waz and Tony Simon are going to be the panel this weekend. That's awesome. I am so Tony Simon. I can't think of anybody so more shy and reserved than Tony Simon.
Yeah, he needs to come out of his shell.
So, I've also never had him on a political show, so I'm kind of interested to see how he does there.
He's going to hit it out of the park. He really is a great guy, and he's unbelievably knowledgeable. And every time I've been to a couple of his diversity shoots, and every time I go, it's an education.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, folks, we're going to go ahead and set this one aside here. Charlie, thanks again. Oh, hey, before we go, man, what's been released recently, or what's coming up on Riding Shotgun with Charlie?
Oh, so I put out a show yesterday, episode 141, Val Evans. I I saw a huge spike in the podcast downloads yesterday. I noticed that it reached over 7,000 people through the Facebook shares. Val Evans is a gal that used a gun in self-defense inside of her house.
Oh,
and this incident led her to speak at the NRA leadership conference leadership meeting at the NRA annual meetings a couple years ago, and she got to hang out with Stephen Williford and former President Trump while she was there. This coming week, we have a fifth Tuesday, and I'm planning on putting out a show. The show that I'm planning on putting out is with The Gun Experiment, and these are two guys that have a podcast that have never shown their face before.
Oh, that'll be interesting. Are they gonna?
Yeah. So this
is it going to be like? Is it going to be like an '80s wrestling show where they show up with the masks over their face? And
so I thought about putting out some pictures with the black lines over their eyes, like it's dirty books from the 1970s. But I don't think that covers up enough of people's faces. So I've thought about putting a couple of pictures up with their faces covered with an emoji face or something. But but that's what's going on.
Bad news, man. Bad news. Tony.
I just jumped in and start over. So Tony Simon. Oh, Tony, we were just talking about you.
Yeah.
All good stuff. All good stuff. We were talking about how it's always an education on the diversity shoots, and that you are you need to come out of your shell a little bit. Like, you need to get out of your comfort zone. Maybe say what you think once in a while.
Exactly. George says, I hear 4 clicks when I pull back the hammer on my 1873 Colt Peacemaker. George, man,
Nice.
we got to get together. I haven't shot one. I've shot a Colt, but not a Colt Peacemaker from that era. Nice. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and shut this one down. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for participating, and we will see you tomorrow, 5